I've spent 5 years of my life living with these characters and these actors and these writers and this crew. It's been a big, big part of my life. And so it's like sending your child off into the world. It's time to move on. Nate, to me, is the most tragic. I think it's partially because he grew up surrounded by death and he was terrified of it. And as much as I love Ruth and Nathaniel, I don't think they were the world's best parents.
I'm not you.
You just keep telling yourself that.
I'm not shut down. I'm not 500 fucking million miles away. I haven't given up.
I don't, like to think of him as a victim, but certainly there's a difference in between the circumstances that you find yourself in and the plans you make in life. John Lennon, I believe, said, life is what happens while making other plans.
What are you doing here?
Oh, I should have called first. I was afraid you'd... I need to talk to you.
These are two people who, for various reasons, fear love because they crave it so much and they've never really had it fully.
You know what? Take your ugly fucking ring.
Don't you throw that ring at me. That's such a fucking cliche old fucking barf.
There, barf.
We've got, like, serious business with each other, you know. There's some relationships in life. You just have, like, you know, you've got serious stuff to do together, you know, serious fun, serious sex, serious, you know, familial issues to work out.
I love you. I need you.
I'm doing the best I can.
It's also impossible.
Just kiss me. Just kiss me once. Just once, baby, and then we're done. Billy! Joe?
Nate, give Brenda a tour.
She hates me.
Well, I'll always love Ruth on Ecstasy, always. The childlike nature that she came back to, freed of these crushing burdens that were on her as she was dragging herself forward. And with the help of a little pill that she wasn't aware of, she was running through the woods in a nightgown, chasing after a bear with a pocket watch.
Remember after that funeral in Malibu for that jazz musician? We broke down on the side of PCH and we made love in the back.
This baby could talk, huh?
I think the reason that Ruth continues to surprise people is that she continues to surprise herself.
She was even able to tell her then love interest that he should just go and be with this other woman that he said he had fallen for.
I thought you'd be more upset.
It's interesting. You know, I found myself feeling a little resentful when she wound up going with the Russian. You know, I was actually getting jealous and feeling hurt and jilted, and I realized, wait, Franny's an actress and I'm just playing a part.
Relationships have meaning and then something stops them.
Arthur, this has to stop. I know that you sent us the feces box and the feces gift basket.
Ruth! Do you know how horrified I am that you think I could commit an act so heinous?
First of all, she shouldn't have dumped my ass. I mean, come on. Okay, I was a virgin, but give me a breath. Sorry, it stings a little bit.
George came along and she fell on this man's shoulder sobbing in a moment of tremendous grief, and it just became very obvious to both of them that there was something very important here.
I want to belong to you, my darling. I want to be yours. And so...
Were you and Dad in love with each other?
Oh, yes. Your father was the great love of my life.
There will never be another man who will love me when I'm young and pretty.
I hate you! And I wish you would leave!
Mom, you're still pretty. God, beautiful. I mean, why do you think all these men are always hitting on you?
You're so sweet.
But look at the men.
Claire is one of my favorite characters. I identify with Claire in a big way because Claire is the child that was born later in the parent's life, which is definitely from my own life. I have two, my brothers are 19 and 15 years older than me, respectively. Nobody was really the same age who could sort of identify with her artistic impulses, a great need to express herself.
I see it, and it just breaks your heart, you know. I had a scene with her, and where I said I liked her boyfriend. I thought he was a good guy, and I thought, oh God, just why can't you do that when you're alive?
When are you gonna let it go?
When you admit in public that I am part of your work.
You're not! I created these pieces. They are mine, and people love them.
I love you.
The art school, we're so self-involved because we're talented, and oh, look at us, we're so brilliant, and yet we suffer for our brilliance.
I think it looks like something you'd see on a calendar.
Can you be a little more harsh? What's been really great about this job is to play a very flawed character. Somebody's always trying to do the right thing, but not succeeding.
That's, I think, the great thread of the show. The great success of the show is that nothing's clean. Nothing's easy.
So much easier to be gay.
Oh, no.
Well, I wouldn't have to deal with unfamiliar sex organs.
Well, they're all unfamiliar unless they're yours.
When we broke for hiatus between season 3 and season 4, I was thinking, I'm really tired of Keith and David's story being their relationship. They need to have their own separate stories.
Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. David held on to an innocence about the world that was almost debilitating in terms of his ability to deal with the reality of his relationship, the reality of his life. And it's that very innocence that kept him in that van and kept him hanging on to this idea that he could actually rehabilitate this guy. In spite of how horribly traumatic it really was just what he needed. How could I have never felt like this?
There's no question that we wanted the episode to be upsetting and that we wanted it to be unanticipated. One thing that I think we might have under-anticipated is that just some people don't like to be surprised.
It wasn't unsettling to write, but it was unsettling to shoot it, I believe. To see Michael C. Hall have to go through all this.
Close your fucking eyes before I shoot them out.
The relationship is, in a very rocky place as a result of that. But at the same time, you gotta forgive. You have to forgive.
Don't you know I think you're beautiful?
No.
And kind and smart and loving? You didn't know that?
No.
Well, I do.
Every year we would come to a point in the room where certain writers would say, I think we should break David and Keith up. And I just didn't want to. I felt like, so what? If they break up, we're going to see David go on a series of bad dates. We've done that already. We did that all through season 1 and 2. I don't think that's that interesting. I think what's really interesting is watching two people stay together when things get really tough and really hard.
The pressures of David wanting to have kids, and I think Keith's underlying problems with that initially is that, his childhood wasn't anything to be proud of, and he didn't want to continue in that manner, and I think it was a great deal of fear.
I didn't ask for the responsibility of taking care of a child. I don't want it. I'm glad I have my life back.
Now we're in another situation with another kind of family, and that's really cool.
You just don't stop thinking about your father, and you don't stop trying to understand the relationship you had with your father or didn't have with your father.
I always saw this, like, if it was in Shakespearean terms, that Rico was sort of like the bastard son who was fighting for his share of what was rightfully his.
Well, I'm not your employee. I'm your partner. I am a licensed funeral director now.
I think Alan's initial concept of who he was a guy who was an artist first and foremost.
Interesting technique. Where'd you train?
Cypress College, interned at Fisher & Sons.
I think I approached him as a Latin actor and seeing other characters that were portrayed by Latin actors on television. At that time, I really didn't like what I was seeing on television, so I wanted to take a different approach to Rico.
So I'll come back home and we'll go back to being ourselves again, okay?
We can't go back. I see a woman. I see water. She thinks you stopped loving her.
But I only started loving her.
You still can.
Lisa! Where are you?
We wanted her to die because we wanted to, I think, do a story about what would it mean to lose somebody who you kind of secretly wanted to lose anyway.
So you want to split up?
Maybe, yeah.
I think she was the shadow. I think she was showing us stuff that we don't, the parts of ourselves that we don't like.
I gave you everything I had, Liz.
Right.
You go crazy when you grieve. And I didn't want to shy away from that.
Maggie meets Nate, and they have this immediate and very strong connection that I think is largely based on like a shared history of tragedy.
Time doesn't help, does it?
And if there's one thing about death that I can tell you, death will shut you up right quick. So if you have something to say in this lifetime, say it.
An approach that I came up with in the first season that has really stood us very well was that we would draw more on directors from the independent film world than from television.
I think the show is shot a lot more like a movie than a TV show. It's shot in a different way, and it has a different feel to it.
Very elegant, incredibly painterly. You know, every frame is kind of like a painting, especially in the Fisher house, just with the wallpaper and just the lighting and the streaks of light.
The Fishers are in that kind of dated green. We always, you know, whenever you see a green set, that's pretty much the Fishers. And then for David and Keith, we had a little bit more fun, and that was kind of the vibrant reds and blacks. And for Federico and his family, it was kind of the perkier pastel colors because they have kids, and Brenda's in the blues.
I think the show captures the existential, you know, angst of life in Los Angeles, which is that kind of quiet time in the afternoon where you can just see the dust settle on things.
They find little corners of LA to shoot in that are, you know, unexpected. But at the same time, there's an awareness of what the rest of LA is about. So you know, an episode I did, Ellen DeGeneres is part of it, and Keith, you know, is working with a pop star, and you know, there's intersections with the LA that people are more familiar with.
The distant locations we went to were certainly memorable. We went to Las Vegas the first season. We went to Seattle, and both of those were wonderful to shoot at, and also helped really open up the show.
There's a scene that I always think of that I had with Peter's character.
Is there something wrong with me? Is there something about me that makes me deserve something like this?
Kathy Bates was directing the episode, and it went really well in this master shot. And Kathy just left it as it was. She just said, you know, let's not get any coverage. Let's just keep it that way.
There was a scene where David looks out, and suddenly in the congregation, he just sees a whole congregation full of young men. That's how it was scripted. And I just remember sitting next to Alan Ball saying, "Can they be naked?" And he said, "Oh, that's a great idea. Let's do that." So that was my first kind of realization that they wanted ideas, they wanted us to think outside the box, they wanted our contribution.
One of the scenes that I tend to cite when I'm working with directors, it's the scene in which David comes out to Ruth.
I have a terrible headache.
Well, maybe we can talk later.
What? What?
I'm gay.
Why didn't you ever tell me?
It was shot very simply by the director, Rodrigo Garcia. Didn't involve a lot of moving camera. Didn't involve flashy angles. And when you watch it, it's completely spellbinding. And it's a scene that you feel deeply could only be on 6 Feet Under.
My favorite scene is when Rico thought I was having an affair with his cousin, and he walks in and his cousin is you know, making it with another man. And I love that scene.
Hey! Oh,
I'd never seen a scene like that on TV before in my life. For that episode to actually air and to get the audience response was even that much more satisfying.
There's a scene, I think it was season 3, where we're shoplifting, where Bettina kind of eggs her on and shows her that the great secret of being over 40 is that you're invisible.
We're all sold out.
Oh, all right then. Thank you so much.
I think that's really essential Bettina material there.
The scene that really sticks out for me is when I have to walk into the room full of Fishers eating dinner, quite stoned, and I'm on drugs.
Could you help me find something tart?
That was quite an experience because I've done nude scenes before, but walking into that where everyone's sitting and eating.
My friend Jimmy, he's a really amazing artist.
was a little weird.
Ruth made a dinner for herself one night. She was all alone in the house. And it was such a sad little dinner that this woman had. And it showed so much. I mean, it was just somebody eating dinner. But my God, it was like she could have died at any moment eating this dinner. There were such profound things emanating from this pathetic little dish of food that she had cooked. And each bite meant worlds.
The scene between Nate and David in the 6th episode of the 1st season, called The Room, that takes place in the room that Nathaniel had kept as a secret, I think is one of my favorites.
You think we should tell Mom about it?
Sure, why not? You won't be happy until this whole family's in therapy.
That is one of my favorite episodes as well. I think, oddly enough, in that moment, you get to see the very core of Nate and David interacting.
Dave, look, I know you're pissed off about a lot of shit, but I didn't make any of that shit happen. Oh, right, yeah, I abandoned you. Well, you know what? I'm not your father. I'm not the one whose responsibility it was not to abandon you, so just get over it, please.
Thank you, Nate. I appreciate your honesty, wrapped as it was in such a bouquet of condescension.
The scene that always sort of sticks with me is my son attacks my daughter.
I need to do it.
That was a very frightening scene to me. I thought that was amazing.
He was in a really scary, kind of dark place.
I'm warning you, this is gonna hurt.
And so it was like watching a train wreck, I think. It was like being on the train for me, you know?
You know, one of the most pivotal scenes between Gabriel and Claire for me, they were taking a shower together.
Did you shut up? Mother's gonna fry her balls for breakfast if she catches you in here.
Nice.
I remember when I finally saw it on screen, I remember there was a moment when we look in each other's eyes and you could see that they both felt safe.
I think the underpants scene is probably the one.
What kind of pennies did you wear? Something sexy?
No, they're not sexy. They're Fruit of the Loom control top briefs, and they come 3 to a pack for $15 at Target. Are you bulimic? Is that what we're going to have to deal with now?
Mom, apparently you want a child with an eating disorder.
For me, personally, I love the scenes in the kitchen with the family. Those are the touchstone.
I've invited Nikolai to dinner Sunday night. I'd like you all to be there.
Nikolai, the flower guy?
Yes. He and I are having a sexual relationship now. I'm not sure if it's something that's going to last, but, well, there it is. We're all adults. We're all sexual beings. We should acknowledge that.
I had this great scene to shoot where Nate is smoking pot, and he goes for a jog in the cemetery, and he comes across a dog.
Hey, buddy. Nate's fantasy with the dog actually is something that came from my own life. I was running, and one day, this dog just came out of nowhere and followed me. And I felt like it was a presence of some kind.
Lisa?
In this culture, you just sort of grieve quietly. You don't want to embarrass people by the big emotions of it. Well, those big emotions have got to come out some way. And they'll make you feel crazy. And you'll look at a dog and think maybe your dead ex-wife is talking to you. If the show is about anything, it's about that everything ends. Organically, it felt like it was the right time. It's definitely bittersweet. It's very emotional. I just finished writing the last episode, and I was sitting on the couch typing and just started weeping.
On a network show that runs a long time, there's to be a succession of showrunners, which can actually be something that can invigorate a show, give it a longer life, give it a fresh perspective. But in the case of this show, it's the vision of the show is so much Alan's and so personal that it was really unthinkable that somebody else would take over the show.
I was sitting at dinner with him and some of the actors. It was Peter and Michael and Alan Poole, and we were talking about the show. I got lost for a minute and I zoned back in, and I listened for a while, and I swore he was talking about his family or a group of his friends. I didn't really know what he was talking about, and I realized he was talking about the characters in the show. Then I realized, okay, I got a job ahead of me.
Oh, I love you so much.
Billy,
What?
don't ever do that to me.
It was just a kiss.
Alan
gives you lessons, life lessons. That's what I've seen with every show. There's always a little, it may be completely skewed, the story, and you're just going, oh, I can't believe these people. They're just horrific. But then something happens that they work their way back to something that's really human. There. Now he'll be in Westwood for all eternity.
We've certainly been told what to say, but not necessarily how to say it. That's something I definitely appreciate and I think is unique in television.
Now we're gay in here!
I enjoyed coming to work every single day and reciting the beautiful words that were put on the page for me. I love doing the show.
Like the bride and groom on top of a cake. Yeah, and then we cremated him. What a fucking waste.
There was a feeling that we were really, I don't know, doing something different and unique. And I feel like I grew a lot as a person, as a director, as an actor. And I don't think my life would have been the same without it.
I don't know how you remain so calm.
I took a Vicodin.
Not really.
You want one?
Oh, no, thank you. Maybe half.
I feel like the show upped the ante for how smart and thoughtful and troubled characters can be. There's no turning back after 6 Feet Under in that respect.
I certainly see death and morgues on TV a lot more now than I did before the show came around. I don't know if there's a direct connection, but I think there probably is.
Hopefully that's provided people with also a sense that they're not alone, because we all go through this.
Thank you for bringing up this thing that is one of the only things we know for sure, really.
Who wants the end piece?
That and that we need oxygen, essentially, are the only couple of things we know.
Lisa, if I'd known you were gonna die, I would have hung out with you more.
Oh, you're so sweet.
You know, when ultimately we leave the body and turn into pure consciousness, 6 feet's going to be floating around in there. I mean, when you think of it, we never think of it, but it is actually vibratory energy which is now out in the universe. So hundreds of light years away, 6 feet under is wending its way through the universe.
It's hard to talk about. My tear ducts are getting ready to go into overdrive.
I've spent a lot of time with this guy. It'll be a transition not to come to the funeral home, go to work.
It's been a great experience. It's been an incredible 5 years.
I've had the odd moment with Peter where, it just sinks in that, he's been my virtual husband for like 5 years, and we've been going out longer than my own husband and I.
The camaraderie that we have here is really special, and that's going to be missed. I've been spoiled.
It's hard. It's going to be really hard. I miss them when I go.
There is an indelible imprint of the time that I have been fortunate enough to spend with the other people in this cast that is very special and very dear.
We shot this scene in a hospital room, and I thought, this is the last scene with the siblings. It's very easy to connect to the death of the show. Life is changing. Life is changing for everybody on the show, and it's changing as we move on to whatever's next.
I guess the legacy of the show that I would like for it to be is that was a really good show.
I love you, David. I always will.
It was really entertaining, and it was upsetting, and it made me think, about life and my own life and how precious life is and how short it is.
How's life?
How's death?
I'm going in. Up to you. You can do anything, you lucky bastard. You're alive.
It can't be so simple.
What if it is?